Hi, welcome to Author's Note.
Don't listen.
My name is Kaz.
And my name's Teese.
Happy Valentine's Day!
Happy Valentine's Day and happy President's Day. If you
I don't know
are
how I feel about
American.
President's Day.
I don't know. I feel like Happy President's Day to me because I actually got off of work for once.
Yeah. Happy
That's how I
President's
feel.
Day if you just get to chill.
Yeah. And to all my retail babies, I love you. I know how hard it sucks. I pray that your store does not have any awful sales.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed.
I pray that maybe your store has to close down because of a winter storm, or the whole staff is, just too tired to come in.
Yeah, I want everybody to be home safe and warm before they have to come in to their shift in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what Cass did to me yesterday, guys? Cass is playing Final Fantasy 14 with friends. And
Put you in a call with like 7 other people.
And all of a sudden I enter the chat and Cass just goes, "Welcome to Author's Note." And the first thing I said is don't listen without even thinking about it. I am trained like a dog.
What that call made me realize is that I have indeed become feral. And I cannot be reintegrated into society.
Congratulations. We will keep you in captivity forever.
When there are multiple people, we're all doing different things in the game. There's 2 different parties who are doing 2 different dungeons. Wild. Just a wild time. And you've got Jala screaming in a baby voice the whole time.
And then I was just there playing Tetris and quietly whispering, "God damn it," the whole time. Because I kept getting top 3, but did not get first that whole time.
The shapes just weren't feeling it yesterday.
Literally 5 minutes before we started this episode, though, I won the shapes. So
hell
it's okay.
Yeah.
I looked it up, and I have 36 Tetris 99 wins.
When are you going to start streaming Tetris 99?
When I A, find a capture card, and B, find a wired controller because my hands move too fast for my Joy-Cons when they are not attached to my Switch.
But if people do want to watch you stream, they can watch you stream Fallout New Vegas, and they can catch that every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/Teese. I've been there every Thursday night, and I love it.
Also, if I do hit affiliate, I'll stream Undertale blind for the first time in my life, too. I've never played Undertale, so if that's enticing to you, hit that follow button. Cass, what have you been consuming media-wise lately?
So I finished reading The Terror, which cool stuff, great stuff. Not like a super big fan of the ending, but what I do really appreciate about Dan Simmons' story is that he acknowledges that the only way that we were able to find terror in Erebus was through a lot of Inuit verbal stories and communication. So I mean, they are and remain kind of the true heroes of that story, and it's really fun to now watch the AMC series and contrast it. And I really appreciate that the AMC series, both incorporates more the importance of the Inuit, but also elevates, she's called Lady Silence by the men, to an actual speaking role, because in the book, her tongue is cut out from the beginning, so she's not really able to communicate, but they give her plenty of speaking, not plenty, they give her quite a few speaking parts in the show, which is really nice.
And it is
more
nice
of her.
To see her actually treated as a person in the show as well.
Yeah.
And they are somewhat considerate of her feelings, and I appreciate it. She's not just a prop throughout the whole entire series. Like, she actually has a little bit of a character arc, as much as you can have in a 10-episode show where you're just a side character. But she does, which is nice.
What about you, Teese? Oh, I've played Final Fantasy 14 too.
Yeah, Cass, it's been a week. Started reading Dune.
Yeah.
You guys thought I was kidding last episode. I started reading it. I'm about a quarter of the way through. I've been reading it on my phone.
Is it good? Like, is it an engaging read?
I'm actually really enjoying it.
Ooh.
So my interests in reading usually lies in nonfiction sociological studies and stuff like that. followed by outdated sci-fi. And this is very much so outdated sci-fi. And it's kind of one of those things that's so high sci-fi straight guy written book that I'm having a blast with it because I just dunk on it the whole time, but in a good loving way. Like there's a scene where the main character's family ends up in their new living space, and the mother finds a note in the middle of a greenhouse, and the greenhouse shows opulence because the world that they're on has very little water and it's a desert planet, which is why it's called Dune and blah blah blah. And the woman is like, I know this person who wrote this note went to the same school of thought as me. Where's her hidden message? And then she finds the hidden message on a leaf. She reads a whole fucking novel on a leaf. Little bumps on a leaf. I love that. And I'm just like, I love this. And so all the characters are, it's told in is it omniscient? Is it like when the narrator knows everything? That's omniscient, right? Yeah. It's an omniscient book, which is really nice because I haven't read anything like that in a while, because I do end up the type of stuff that the last thing I read was Ready Player 2. So like it's so nice to eat something different. And it's wonderful is that these characters have these conversations, and then immediately the author Frank Herbert goes, this is what they were really thinking. And I'm like, yeah, because I just love hearing the opposition. And I think it's a really good mix of saying one thing, but really, really meaning the other thing. And you learn about the characters so much faster that way, you know? And the main character, his name is Paul. Of all the fucking names, all of these characters are named like really basic things, like Paul and Jessica.
Oh, I was going to ask if they were like biblical names.
No, they're just random ass names. But what's nice is that, like, even though Paul is kind of like the boy king prophecy holder or whatever, it's still enjoyable.
King Timothy Chalamet.
Literally, oh my god, in one of the lines, a character is referred to as the girl princess, and I was like, that's just me, babes. Like, I too am the girl princess.
Calling her the girl princess, insinuates that there is indeed a boy princess, and I would like to meet him, as well as a non-binary princess.
Yes, I love that. That means also boy prince, girl prince, and then binary prince, and whatever other funky little genders we want to put in between. But I'm enjoying it. And then
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's so nice to read, and I read it at work on the down low because it's on my phone. My boss doesn't know. Don't tell my boss, guys. But I'm also playing Tulip finally, which I fucking love.
What an appropriate game for the season.
It truly is. It's so good. And for people who don't know what Tulip is, it's a game where you move to a town and then you kiss people to become stronger. But if you're caught by the cop with his headlight eyeballs, he shoots you and gives you a crime sticker. And then you wake up in the graveyard. I love it. So it was made by Natsume Games, and Natsume Games does a lot of stuff like this. Like they did Moon RPG Remix, which I also highly recommend as well. They did this one game where it's kind of like a city controller, but with onion people. They're just wacky.
They also
and
did
fun.
the OG Harvest Moons.
Yes, they did. Yeah. Play Tulip. It's also a bitch and a half to get a copy of, but you could buy it on the PlayStation Network if you have a PS3.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I wanted a hard copy of it. So that's what I've been up to.
I want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Cullen episode breakdown is coming, as well as some other cool, fun things down the pipeline. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I just wanted to make sure that that person was aware that their donation is being wonderfully held and will be put to good use. Thank you so much to everyone who has donated insofar, and to everyone who has shared with their friends or people they know, or who retweets our little teasers every week. That means so much to us and really helps us out in growing our audience, and we really appreciate that.
Every episode slowly creeps up in listens each week. A new one comes out, and I just think that's fantastic.
It's really fun to look at.
I appreciate you so much.
So we had some technical difficulties with our guest, but they will be back with us next week. So get excited for that. We will be having Vanta Black Cosplay on with us. She is an incredible cosplayer. You can find her on Twitter and on Instagram at Vanta Black Cos. And if you have any questions for her, things like that, please send them in. We would love to be able to sort of facilitate that conversation. She hosts panels about the natural hair movement in cosplay and comes with a wealth of knowledge that we're really excited to dip into with you all. With that said, we're gonna have a Q&A episode because we did have technical difficulties, so we're a little slapdash, but you guys sent in some questions, so we're gonna answer them. Except y'all were really petty. Y'all want to start some shit. Yeah. They're trying to get us canceled.
No, but they're good questions though.
They are good questions. They're gonna be really fun questions. How about we start with this one because it's innocuous enough, and also I'm biased because it's from friend of the show Cass, who is a friend of mine. So Twitter user at CSSWolf asks, what fandoms have you considered solely based on the fan art alone? Teese?
Oh boy. So there's definitely been times where I've seen fan art and then hunt out what it is and then got into it. Like, oddly enough, All Saints Street, which is a short Chinese cartoon that's about a whole bunch of supernatural beings living in an apartment building together. I saw a gif of it and I was like, this looks really cute. I'm gonna try and find this. And not a lot of people were watching it at that point yet. There was like a brief boom for it when it finished up the first season, and the second season's coming out soon. But I watched it on my own, and then like a week later people were like, oh my god, have you guys heard of this? I was like, oh, I've watched all of this already. But
I was here first.
But also I felt that way actually about Fire Emblem Three Houses. All of my friends really liked it, and there was such good fan art about it, and I didn't have a Switch yet, and I was like learning about it via osmosis from my friends, and I was just like, it's time. It's just time. And then I got a Switch for Christmas and it was all over, and here I am, diehard horse girl fan.
3 years later,
it's been a full year for me because I got it for Christmas last year, so it's been a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you, Cass? Is there anything that you've considered solely based on fan art alone?
Detroit Become Human got me real bad with this one.
I understand.
There were so many people making really incredible fan art, and I was like, all right. Okay. But I got it used, so David Cage did not get my money.
I feel that. I understand.
GameStop got it instead. Another awful evil. Yeah, Detroit Become Human got me really bad with that one. I would also say Promare, because Jala had gotten tickets and was going to go see Promare with a friend and had asked me if I wanted to come. And I was like, nah. And then I spent the day on Twitter and seeing all the fan art, and I was like, Jala, can I come now? And Jala was like, yeah, sure. And then I saw Promare.
Interesting.
Not really a part of that fandom, but
I saw it that first day it came out, so I got to see it before it completely exploded. Like the first day it was available.
And were you so bitter when it did?
I fucking hated it. But that's just me, guys. I promise I'm not a hater. I have a lot of personal reasons to why I disliked it.
They're all totally valid criticisms too.
Probably could do an episode on it if I really was feeling that petty, but you know what? Everybody, you're allowed to enjoy it. I mean it.
It has beautiful, incredible animation.
It's beautiful to look at, but
it is a visual feast.
The only good thing I could say about it, I admit, Joe. But that's just me. I also feel that way about Ace Attorney a little bit. I recently did play the first game, but like I've always seen characters, like fan art of characters. I'm like, I love this character. Like I love the character designs. I think they're so charming.
I've noticed there's a little bit of a mini boom happening with it right now, and I'm not totally sure why, but like I totally recommend getting into it. It's a very fun and very accessible game.
Yes.
And like I think you can buy like the full collection on the Switch now at this point too.
I have the first 3 games are available via Switch, and then something 5 and 6 was just announced for the Switch as well. And they just announced oh my gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? A localization. There we go. A localization of one of the prequel games.
And if you don't have a Switch or you're not able to play it, I mean, there's tons of playthroughs online, but I will say that the Game Grumps also have a fully voiced one, and their editor will leave fun little Easter eggs where he will edit the newspaper or items in the game.
I think it's also available on the PlayStation now as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, I feel like it got ported.
Little Mr. PS Vita.
Yeah, no, like on the PlayStation 4, I think you can download it.
On the big screen.
Yeah.
You can do that with the Switch too. I frequently forget that I can dock my Switch and see it on a TV.
Oh yeah, like, it's on PS4. Yes, and it's the first 3 games as well.
I wish I could play Animal Crossing but big, and then it's like, wait, I can. All right.
I love that for you.
Teese, why don't you pick our next question?
Okay, let's do the crop of the ones that Serena asked. So
yeah, Serena asked some wonderful questions. Thank you so much, Serena.
Yeah, so I'll facilitate the section. Serena at Spitting Lizards on Twitter asks, have you ever done a panel at a con before? Are there any topics you'd love to cover in such a setting? What about you, Cass? Because I have answers for this one.
Yeah, you have done panels. I have not done panels. I would love to at some point. Answering one of Serena's questions preemptively, I table at cons. The hope is that we could do some maybe author's note panels, though. That would be a fun time. A little author's note live show.
That would be so chaotic, but I would love it. That sounds so
Hello,
delightful.
everyone. We're here to talk about Tulip. It's just problematic, and it's time to cancel it.
Oh my god, no.
What about you? Are there any topics? Yeah.
Yes. So I have done a panel before. I am a part of I Love My Gay Neopets, which was a LGBT Neopets panel for MagFest 2020. The co-host of it, I was 1 out of 4 co-hosts. The first year that it was done, it was labeled as how Neopets turned me gay and made me a furry. And then they used an article that I wrote in it. And I became friends with the person who hosted the panel. And then I became a part of the panel the 3rd year they did it. So I'm on that one. But I also have been working on slowly but surely for the past year. Now that cons are dead, I was hoping to pitch it 2020, but that never happened. I was hoping to do panels on 2 things, which is very Teese core, but one would be on music anime, and specifically music anime that isn't about idols. And then I wanted to do one about manga written by women, because I feel like most of the manga I read is by women, but not a lot of people always read manga written by women, or they don't realize that these options are available to them, because frankly, I find most shonen boring, but I really like seinen and josei. And obviously, most seinen is written by a man, but I really like some josei that's made by women. So I love to.
I'm going to ask you to define those terms
for
the audience.
Wink. So,
I know shonen, but I'm not familiar with the other 2.
So shonen and shoujo are anime and manga referred to as shonen is usually quote unquote for boys, while shoujo is usually quote unquote made for girls. So shoujo is like middle school, elementary school girls. Usually it's like romance, magical girl, like baking stuff, kind of softer things like that. And then shonen is what we pretty much have adopted. Sport, your
Naruto, Bleach,
your Demon Slayers,
One
your
Piece.
Binhas, yeah. So more action-based, screaming, fighting for my friend, shit like that. While seinen tends to be aimed towards an older male audience, usually high school, late middle school, high school to college even, while josei is more for women of that age group. So some big seinen titles that you probably would know are Golden Kamuy is usually one. Full Metal Alchemist is that weird middle ground between shonen, even though it is a jump property. A shonen jump property, it still is a little bit more on the seinen side, especially because the characters do age and grow and stuff like that.
My brain says stuff like Dogs, Bullets, and Carnage.
Kill la Kill can be considered one. Space Dandy. Even Modica Magica can be considered a seinen. while some sweet, sweet josei would be anything made by Kyoko Okazaki, who I adore, and she is best known for Helter Skelter and Pink, and there's a really big movement within josei for more fashion-based stuff, so Nana is technically considered a josei. It's kind of depending on audience, but also that's a load of bullshit because there's people in their 30s who watch shonen anime, you know?
Yeah.
But there's tons, so I always make it a point to mostly read manga written by women, and I just have so many manga recommendations.
Because you hate men. All men bad, as Greg Ellis would say.
What happens is I find women write better characters. Especially female characters.
Yeah, so... and I think that's an issue of the literary world as a whole. You know,
so I find the relationships in manga written by women to be more complex, which is why so many people like Full Metal Alchemist, and also why Dungeon Meshi just slaps so goddamn hard. So yes. I have feelings, and I would like to write panels about that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Also, author's note. And followed by another. So Serena asked like 5 questions, which I really appreciate. And
coming in clutch.
Yeah, her next question is, what fandom produces best fic in your opinion the worst? This is a very Serena question.
So I know it says in my opinion. I don't know that, like, I don't definitely have one that, like, I would consider to produce, like, the worst fan fiction, and I don't really like to pigeonhole fandoms like that, or just, like, properties in general like that. I would imagine that Ready Player One probably produces some pretty bad fan fiction, but, like, every fandom has its, like, golden nuggets, you know? So, I would say probably some of the best fic that I've read has been for... I would say Lord of the Rings fandom and adjacent properties, and for Dragon Age. And the thing both of those properties have in common is that they're really broad and have tons of different things for people to work from. But, like, I've read really incredible fics from, like, every single fandom I've been a part of, and also some really poopy fics. And, like, that just happens, you know? What about you, Teese?
So, here's my thing. I find... sometimes if a fandom
Teese fucking loves Five Nights at Freddy fanfic.
I don't even know what a Five Nights at Freddy really is. Yeah. I was the one who wrote
You can pretend all you want,
fiction.
Teese, but I know.
I was the one who wrote the dream fanfiction that crashed AO3.
Oh my god.
I was not. So I find a lot of times fandom and fanfiction to be frustrating sometimes when the fan base is predominantly younger. So I used to be really into Haikyuu, and Teese loved some Haikyuu fic, obviously, but Haikyuu also had a lot of high schoolers writing fan fiction in it, and it kind of was obvious at sometimes, you know, and I find when series have that issue where it's predominantly teenagers, it's
an issue that their main audience engages with the property.
Yeah, how dare you be a teenager? No, what I was trying to say is that it gets a bad rap as a series that has shitty fic or whatever. Like, there's always going to be that person who writes the really weird freak shit. There's always going to be that person who writes that 400,000 word piece novel that's beautiful and should be published. So I don't really think there's quote unquote a bad and a best, like a worst and a best. But Final Fantasy 15 fics fed me for so long.
Yeah, they got some great shit in there.
So tasty. Yeah, so I guess my answer is Final Fantasy 15.
Produces both the best and the worst.
It sure does.
Well, and I think you're always going to have that with, like, I know that's I don't even want to say it's a problem. I know that's part of the aspect of Kingdom Hearts fandom, right? Is that you have both very young individuals who are engaging with it and then older people who are engaging with it. So you get, like, a really broad spectrum of, like, fics that are more mature, and, like, I do not want this to be taken out of context. I am by no means saying that if you are older you write better fic, because that is not the case. But there is like a definite, handling of certain themes that are approached by different age groups, and how effectively those are approached, how appropriate those are seen as, etc., etc.
I also noticed that sometimes if people are in a fandom for a really long time, they'll obviously grow with their abilities.
Oh yeah.
And they will produce better fics. Like, for instance, I think some of the best fic I've ever actually read is through the Metal Gear Solid tag. I think there are a lot of people who write really, really strong Metal Gear fic. However, boy howdy, some of those people are freaks. And it's clearly the people who stay around and stick around because they've made friends, and those friends allow them to write whatever the hell they want. So sometimes I'm sure reading something by a person, I'd be like, should have knew that was coming. They wrote this in their last fic. And I think sometimes people just get comfortable and just go unhinged, It's me.
Next of Serena's question catalog is, what's your favorite type of merch to buy at cons?
Acrylic charms.
Buddy, I live in the artist alley.
You do.
I do. I don't really buy a lot from the dealer's hall, because a lot of it's either, if I want like one official piece of merch, I will get that, but that'll be like big money. But like a lot of smaller stuff I'm wary of, because it might be knockoffs of things that are literally being sold in the artist alley around me.
Yeah, pretty much. I love acrylic charms, and then there's
Stickers.
This one person who sells chapstick and candles that
oh
comes
my
to
god
most cons I go to, and we're friends on Facebook because I buy from him so often. So I love buying chapstick from him. And honestly, if you are a person that sells chapstick at a convention, I will find you and I will buy from you. I also love buying indie artist earrings. I love earrings. I also love letter sets. When people sell letter sets at cons, especially like original art letter sets, I go buck wild.
Stationery. Yeah, I would say I lean more towards like original content, just because that's also what I tend to create, with like a mix of fan stuff. But like stickers, stationery, washi tapes, especially washi tapes are rare, but you find a good washi tape. I collect washi tape. I'm a big stationery hoarder, for anyone who doesn't know. Same. That I have a lot. But all right, Teese.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of Neopet and why?
In this house, we love Chias. And because everybody hates them. Aww. And I think they are friend-shaped. And I love them. And I'm also a big fan of cows and bloomaroos. And my Neopet Sona is a bloomaroo. But I just think Chias are really underappreciated. And also, I don't dress up my Neopets, which probably also makes me like them, because I think they're kind of just blobs.
You have to, I was going to say you have to appreciate their naked little body, and then I thought better of it. But I just said it out loud now. So really, did I think better of it?
No, but I do. And I also love that you could turn them into fruits, because not all species can become fruits, but the Chia can. And I just think they're neat. And cows were like my childhood favorite, and bloomaroos.
The cows are so cute.
Cows are so cute. Back in the day, my childhood email address was ilovecows123.
Oh, you should get that back. Keep that.
I have no way to access it. So
find a way.
Worry. I don't even remember what the password is.
Find a way, Teese.
They can't. I don't even use my MSN passwords anymore. Oh fuck.
Hack in.
No, don't use my email address. Yeah. That was my childhood email address back in the day. And bloomaroos, I'm kin. Dare I say, I'm Neopet's kin with bloomaroos. Cass, have you ever tabled at a convention? If so, what was that experience like?
It comes with the good and the bad. I could talk a lot about my experiences, but I think we've talked several times in the past or mentioned that we would like to have an episode where we have a bunch of artists on to talk about the experience of tabling and what that's like. Here is what I will say to you if you have not tabled and you're a person buying from the artist alley. Artists who are sitting at their table have been stuck there working about 12-hour days and have to be very on and like in extra customer service mode. And it can be really draining. And a lot of times the week leading up to the convention, they have been traveling or they have been busting their ass to get stuff done. If somebody is a little grumpy or put off, as an artist, give them the benefit of the doubt that they are maybe having a rough time. It is difficult to table. It is a lot to handle. Also, oh my God, don't steal from us. What the fuck?
Yeah.
If you're we are not in the 1%. Don't steal from anyone at a con. That's so fucked up.
Yeah. Also, hi guys. I've like a junior tabler because friends table and I just hide behind their table and then sell copious amounts of shit for them because it's like the one thing I'm really good at. And please, oh my God, just be truthful. Don't
if you can't afford something, admit you can't afford it.
Yeah, don't try to haggle with artists too. They set their prices for a reason.
I will smack you.
Like, if the artist offers it to you, like I've happened like once or twice, like I've purchased something like, oh shit, I have only $13 and not 15. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, let me give you my card. And they'll be like, oh my God, it's okay, I'll take the 13. Like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But they have to offer it to you. You cannot try to bargain with somebody. Like, just because they're in their little table, their little hut, so to say, their little space, does not mean that you could treat them like someone who's trading. Like, unless like you're an artist and you want to do art trades with each other, but that's like,
different.
Usually with your like that's your friends. Like you guys are
that's totally
different.
You
guys are building friendships. Like no.
If you see artists trading amongst themselves and you are not an artist in the alley, don't try and get in on that. No. And just like be respectful of these artists because a lot of the times this is their livelihood. This is how they might make a bill. This is how they might be trying to build a portfolio. Like there's don't put your things on my table. Don't lean on my table.
Yeah.
Don't start moving or touching shit or pulling it around because
don't pull shit off the boards either. Oh my God.
I think it's a lot of just like people are also really overstimulated. That was a lot of like, really instructive energy right there. So I will say it more positively. One of like my favorite things is that I sell stickers, or rather I give out stickers if you put $1 in my tip jar of Kermit holding a hormone vial and it'll be labeled like estrogen or testosterone. And one of my favorite things is when like parents come with their younger children and we'll get them one of those HRT stickers or one of my HRT patches. And I just think that is the sweetest, kindest thing in the world. And it also just makes me really happy in general when I see parents with their kids, whether they're like, awkward teenagers or what have you at cons. Because I'm like, oh, that's really sweet. And you're being really supportive. And that makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I like making friends. I like when I'm stuck behind tables and
love
I
to
see
make
people.
Friends.
I at Anime NYC this past year, I saw a literal
don't come behind my table.
Please don't. Oh my God. Whatchamacallit, I saw a teenager cosplaying Gregory Horror Show. They were like clearly there with their mom and they were so excited that I knew what they were cosplaying. And I've been a Gregory Horror Show fan like since I was 8. So to see someone who also is weirdly into it the same way that I was at that age, I was like, wow. Wholesome. And they were just absolutely delighted. And I love moments like that. Like, we're not friends, but it's just a moment of being able to like I love sitting because you're behind a table and you're stationary, you get to like absorb people better and actually recognize cosplays, which I think is so fun. I love that.
I would like to offshoot this question with a question sent in by perhaps the best Twitter user handle ever. @SpaceLesbian69 asks, are top and bottom the new seme and uke, and will we cancel this terminology shortly for fandom shipping? So, I have an experience I'd like to share. Okay. I want to preface this by saying, hi, I'm a trans man. I'm queer. So, my perspective on this discussion, I think, is a little bit different, and I have opinions on it based on my personal experiences. I had for a few cons, I did a tip jar system that was 2 jars, and it was Ignis from Final Fantasy 15, and I was asking people if he was a top or a bottom, and you could vote by putting $1 into the top jar or the bottom jar, and you would get like a free Polaroid that I had printed out. And if you voted that he was a bottom, I said, no, you're wrong. And if he was a top, I said, yep, that's a top right there. I'm okay with joking about that because, like, that's part of the sort of, like, jokes I have with my friends and, like, kind of part of my community and part of the discussion there. But it became really, really uncomfortable when I started having, like, heterosexual people get in on it, and like who got really, really gendered about it in a way that made me super uncomfortable. Like there was a teenage boy at one point who came up and started like arguing with me straight up and was like, you know, he's a bottom because he cooks and he takes care of Noctis. And I'm like, okay, all right. So like I have grown and I retired that tip jar immediately after that and said no more. And like it had been a trend like for people just to kind of do that at their artist alley tables like for that year, but I think it got tired out for that exact reason because people morphed like the concepts of top and bottom into masc v femme really quickly, and it became really uncomfortable. And like I will joke about it with my own friends because I know the context with which we're approaching it, but I do not like joking about it with strangers because I don't know their own take on it. And like it also can become very clear on Twitter when people are like, oh, he's such a top or he's such a bottom, or like big top energy, and it's like you're really just rebranding this truly into the new like seme and uke of yaoi days, which if you're unfamiliar, in yaoi, the tropes for a long time have been that there is a seme and an uke, which also causes confusion with people who play ukulele, who type it uke. But ukes are always presented as being like much smaller men. They're very dainty, they're very delicate. A lot of times they're virgins. They're like hyper feminized against the seme, who's like really big, really powerful, super domineering, hyper aggressive, often hyper masculine, and it's just like it's straight coding gay relationships.
Yes.
And I'm not here for that. And I'm also not here for like gendering straight relationships. And I think that just leads us down a new path of toxicity and gender essentialism that isn't helpful and doesn't do anything but like just reinstill the new status quo, you know? It bothers me. I don't like it. I hope that it doesn't turn into like a cancel thing where it's like, you know, like saying seme and uke now I guess is like quote unquote cringe, but whatever. I don't really care. I just kind of like turn my brain off and pretend you didn't say that because it kind of makes me uncomfortable because of like the context of it, and like it's kind of become that way for me personally with top and bottom.
That's fair. Space Lesbian 69 is my good pal Han, and Han is also the original person who made I Love My Gay Neopets / How Neopets Turn Me
so
Gay
cool.
Made Me Furry. I love you, Han. Hope you're doing okay.
I think that's a great question, by the way.
And I mean, hi guys, I'm a non-binary lesbian, so like I don't think I really have any say in this whatsoever.
No, you do.
I do? Okay.
Yeah. Because it's affected lesbians just as much. This like, oh,
in general,
she's a top or she's a bottom.
the whole queer community has been affected, I feel like, because like what you were saying, that top and bottom has become coded, especially by straight people, to mean masc or femme / the man. Who wears the pants in the relationship? Who's the man and who's the woman? Like, no, listen, in an LGBT relationship, unless you are a man and a woman who are LGBT, like, there's no man, there's no woman. It's just two people.
I always think about that fucking episode of Queer Eye where, like, JVN tries to express it as, like, sun energy versus moon energy. I'm like, it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing over and over again. And, like, if that makes... I want to be clear here. The language that makes you feel comfortable, like, that is your own prerogative. It becomes a problem when you're flexing that language upon other people and they're not comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, for the same reason that some queer people are okay with being called queer, and some people are like, no, please refer to me as just gay or LGBTQIA or just, you know, what have you, because they're not comfortable with the term queer, and that's okay. But like, it's also really uncomfortable for me when like total strangers are like, you have like big top energy, and I'm like,
God.
Wow.
Oh my God. Can I tell a story?
Yeah, please do.
So when I was 17, the first season of Legend of Korra came out. And by the time episode 3 came out, a convention happened and I cosplayed Bolin. And that weekend was the most sexually forward weekend people have ever been with me while I was in cosplay, especially as a 17-year-old. And this grown adult woman, she must have been like, I'm going to say late college. So like maybe, I'm going to say 25 at the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
But a guy came up to me and he was like, my girlfriend loves Bolin. She wants you to top her. And then she like was about 5 feet away and waved hi to me. And I was like, I'm a senior. Like, I think I said I'm 17. Like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, I think I maybe even might have said I'm a virgin. Like, it felt so uncomfortable and so
even if
awkward.
You weren't 17, that is a totally inappropriate, invasive thing to do.
That same weekend, somebody asked for a quote-unquote ship picture of my friend as Cora and me as Bolin. And it just, the whole thing made my skin crawl because, like, at that time, I was really uncomfortable with my sexuality. I didn't really recognize that I was a lesbian yet. And at that point, I was like, maybe I'm asexual. Please don't make advances at me. Even more so than somebody normally would. Mm-hmm. And it just was so abrasive and
disgusting.
Just because your friends and you talk about this doesn't mean that everybody talks about shit the same way. And shit, there's even things that I talk to about certain friends that I won't talk to about other friends with, you know? And I think especially with strangers, when people thrust upon top and bottom or seme and uke or whatever
poor choice of words.
Shut up.
This is why you can't talk about it. I'm immature.
Yeah. You say a fart joke and Cass cries. Like, just stop. Like, I mean, sure, at the end of the day, for me, like, it's not like I'm having sex anyway. Mm-hmm. Top is what I know what I'm gonna read in a fic, and bottom is what I'm gonna read in a fic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's just, it's nuanced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, like, I think it can be helpful in the context of tagging, but, like, ascribing it to people based on their behavior makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's big uncomfortable.
So, going right off of that, okay. So I debated for a long time how to say this person's handle, and I'm gonna go with @Cart-Years.
It's pronounced Carters because I know this person. That is my pal
Carter. Years.
It's Carters.
Carters asks, do you guys have a fictional character you just hate beyond anything? One you could just rant about for hours? And up until this year, I would have told you no. But I now have 2.
Tell me, Cass.
Okay. So it takes a lot for me to dislike a character. And most of the time, like, even if I know and see that a character is like an awful human being, most of the time I'll still love them because of like, wow, that's a really engaging, amazing character, and they're getting like a really visceral reaction from me of like disgust. Love that. Love to see it. Love to consume it. I cannot stand 2 characters in particular though, and I think for very similar reasons, and they are Byakuya Togami from Danganronpa and Lise from Final Fantasy XIV Stormblood. I hate them both so much. I have never disliked characters as much as these 2. Most of the time, I wouldn't say I even dislike characters. I am just either neutral or I like them. I don't really dislike characters, but I cannot stand these 2.
Same, I understand.
Warnings for spoilers for Stormblood if you're not caught up or haven't played it. I haven't finished it yet, but oh my god, turn your ears off for the next like 2 minutes, I guess, maybe, while I talk about this. Lise is this super obnoxious character in Stormblood who is posed as she's like a part of like the oppressed population, even though she didn't grow up with them. She's not native to their population and hasn't been amongst them for several years, so she hasn't actually experienced the worst of that oppression. But she takes it on as her own, and she's like, I've been so harmed by this, and then is constantly framing everything about herself, and I'm like, what were the writers doing with this? Because she is so awful. She's blonde-haired and blue-eyed, and her literary foil, the villain, is a woman who is a walking dragon lady trope, who has like black hair and very like poignant Asian features, and it's just like, oh my god, this is a nightmare on so many levels. And then Byakuya just is presented and self-presents as being a genius despite making the most like surface level observations, and that just annoys me. He reminds me of every man I've ever met. Teese, do you have any fictional characters you hate?
So, sorry guys, I've talked about this already, but
the mouse. It's the mouse.
It's the mouse, but it's also a Tilda Fire Emblem. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you don't like her.
I hate her. And usually I wouldn't care about her, but I think it's if I was doing a group project with Hilda, I would have killed her. She's the combination of every type of person that I hate.
Oh god.
I hate people who act like they're too cool to like anything or be enthusiastic about anything. I hate people who are so fucking lazy and then take the like what's the word, like take the credit for it. And I know in Hilda's supports she usually says thank you to the person who's done it, or will kind of be like, yeah, I guess I'll help you, but just and that, and I hate it. I've even played like I'm about.
She's like, I romanced Hilda. It did not change anything.
That's another character I also hate. Oh, give me a second.
Seraph.
No, I love that little dragon man so much. I just hate her, and I wish I liked her so much because so many people like her, but I just fucking. And I also hate Miyuki Kazuya from Diamond No Ace. Hate him.
I'm not familiar.
Diamond No Ace is a baseball anime, and I just fucking hate Miyuki Kazuya. I think he's rude. I think he's pompous. I think he's stuck up. I think he's a little bitch. I hate him. And like I literally hate him so much that I cosplayed him.
Oh my god, Teese.
It's so funny as a concept to begin with, but like
I hate you so much I inherited your aesthetic.
Literally, that's literally how I feel. Like I have to. There can only be one, and it's me. I hate him. I hate him, and I haven't thought about him in a while, which is why that wasn't my initial answer. But now that I'm thinking about him, I'm just steaming like a vegetable.
If you love any of these characters we're talking about, that's totally fine. I 100%.
Oh my god, I will never knock you for liking these characters
absolutely
whatsoever.
Not. We are not those people.
And I will still have a pleasant and nice conversation with you. Like,
if anything, I'm more fascinated to hear about why people love characters that I hate.
Yeah, I will never
except
yuck
for
your
Lise.
yum.
Please don't tell me about Lise.
I will never yuck your yum, especially like maybe like besides kink shit. But also, I don't want to hear that shit from you guys. But if it comes to characters, I will never yuck your yum. But you have to respect my favorite characters then in turn too.
Read the next one, Teese, whichever one you want.
I think going off of that vibe of hating characters.
Oh no.
We got. Should I do this one? Would you be okay with doing this one, or do you want to leave this?
I'm fine with doing all of them.
Okay. We got an email, and the email sent a very lovely story attached to this, but to
contextualize it,
to contextualize and to edit for time. Archie asks, have either of you witnessed from the third person a similar sort of baseless controversy unfold and then die out?
And I do just want to say, Archie, we do have plans to do a Dream Daddy episode sometime in the future, so don't worry. We will address what you emailed us about, among other things.
This is about, like, sudden overnight canceling, an event that happens within canon or context and stuff like that. So, Cass, do you have an answer for this? Because I do.
Yeah, I can think of one, and it was the treatment of John Boyega by the Star Wars fandom.
Oh boy, that was a rough one.
I mean, the Star Wars fandom treated John Boyega horribly from the very beginning, but when he made that comment about, it was something to the effect of, like, how Finn laid the pipe so that Kylo could come in and get it with Rey or whatever. It clearly a joke, and people went after him. Like,
oh Jesus,
do I think it was in the best taste? No, not really. It wasn't like my favorite joke ever, but I also don't think it caused the level of harm that people were insinuating it did, and certainly not to merit the absolutely atrocious behavior that people treated John Boyega with, and then had the audacity to call him, like, misogynistic and, you know, a women hater and a chauvinist, and then start accusing him of like sexual assault baselessly. It was
What?
disgusting. And
That's
then of course,
awful.
like everything, it just fizzles out, but John Boyega has to now carry the weight of that and deal with
Mm-hmm.
that forever, while people
Mm-hmm.
just go on about their days because they left a comment and now they feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
So I was in Voltron fandom
Okay.
for the first season, and in between season 1 and 2. Once season 2 came out, I bounced because I hated the way certain characters were treated in season 2. But there was an incredibly popular fan fiction that was in the Voltron fandom, and I actually was the official beta reader for it.
Oh no.
However, there was a chapter coming, and they kind of just sprung it on me when I wasn't home. They're like, hey, can you beta read for me? And I mean, we weren't friends. I just kind of offered it one time before it got popular, and it just skyrocketed type deal. And then, like, we never were friends. Like, we never talked outside of them asking me to beta read or whatever. But they were like, can you beta read for me? And I was like, I'm sorry, no, I'm currently busy, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, okay, I'll get my friend to read it. It's no big deal. So the next day, the chapter comes out, and I'm reading it, and oh boy, something not good happened.
What
And
happened? Just like very briefly.
one of the characters, an OC made for the fan fiction, is revealed to have an autistic child, and it was just
oh no, not handled well.
Not handled well. And it kind of was very much so, look at this. I'm woke for including this. And a lot of people who are autistic, or even parents of autistic children, so on and so forth, were like, what the fuck are you doing writing this? And I was like, oh my god, please don't let me have my name attached to this. Please don't let me have my name attached to this. Luckily, my name was not attached to it. And then the person came out with the next chapter, but then they rewrote the whole entire fan fiction. Just the whole entire thing.
Just the whole thing.
Just the whole entire fucking fan fiction. And the last chapter that they, like, the chapter after the one that caused the controversy, was the last chapter in the whole entire series. So it took them like 4 or 5 months, and the final chapter dropped, and the whole entire thing was rewritten. Like, I went to just go read the last chapter. I was like, wait a second, what the fuck happened? And I like scrolled up, and the more I was like reading up beforehand, I was like, I don't remember any of this. Did they rewrite the whole entire fan fiction? And even after that, I was like, what the
I
fuck?
mean, credit, you fuck up and you're like, you know what? Okay.
They didn't even apologize.
But yeah, you have to address it.
They just kind of were like, oh, well, I talked to my friend who's autistic, and he thought it was okay. And then they just rewrote the fan fiction without any explanation, until people started messaging them being like, hey, did you write the fan fiction? And they're like, yes, I did. And everybody was like, what?
And I think that's the difficult part of it too, right? Is that like what might be acceptable for some people doesn't mean it's acceptable to the community as a whole. And yeah. I mean, there are still like, you know, like best practices. And at the end of the day, you know, it's not your story. Maybe you shouldn't be writing that.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just to see how quickly people turned on this person was.
Oh yeah, it's vicious.
Like astronomical. It was like a light switch. It was ridiculous.
Next question is from Twitter user Lovely Little Beck, who asks, what fandoms do you consider the most toxic? And I think my answer is going to be very unsatisfying for this, but I genuinely think it's just whatever is in vogue at the time.
I agree.
Because generally speaking, like when you have quieter fandoms where popular interest has kind of died out, people aren't keen to start drama. They don't want to isolate themselves from the fandom, but they've also sort of learned to live with one another. And like, if you're in a fandom long enough and you're annoyed by someone, hopefully you just block them. But a lot of times when stuff is in vogue and people are like constantly digging stuff up, either to read or consume as content, I think there are some people who only know how to engage with fandom via discourse, be that positive analytical sides or petty drama. And I think just like when something is really at its peak of popularity, you know, you have tons of people engaging with it and it can cause so many problems. I don't think that there is like a single solitary fandom that is the most toxic, because toxicity is a personal experience, generally speaking. Um, I know there are some fandoms that certainly are more toxic than others, and sometimes that is the result of the source material, and sometimes that is just a result of the people who happen to get big in the fandom first.
I love only talking to my 3 friends and
Exactly.
not interacting with any other part of the
That is the
fandom.
best way to enjoy fandom. Like,
Agreed. Find your circle, and also don't base your friendships only on liking one ship together, because that will not make a lasting friendship. And if you have a real friend, they will like you after you stop caring about a ship. So I just think it's what Cass said. I think whatever is the biggest thing, because there's always going to be people who jump to the newest hottest trend, and that's not to say that they don't like all of these
mm-hmm.
things, but
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's also there's nothing wrong with people selling merch of stuff that's popular to make money. I will also say that as well.
Even if they don't read it, leave us alone. We're trying to make it in this world.
Yeah, exactly. People are trying to make money, but when it's a fandom, that's a little bit different, because you have to engage with it in some way to consume it. And just because your pal likes this thing one day and likes the other thing the next day, like, you still have to experience it to some degree, I feel like, for you to at least have fandom and lingo talk. And in that, you have to have this constant ability to experience the same thing over and over again at a very fast pace. And I feel like when people are just munching through something that quickly, you're gonna burn out real fast, and you're gonna become not the best person when interacting with.
Just to jump off on this, I think my least favorite kind of person in any fandom are the people who don't make or contribute anything to the fandom except to sit there and say, I really wish the fandom would stop doing X, Y, or Z. Be the change you want to see in the world, and if you want to see that content, you need to make it. Stop expecting other people to do it for you, or pay other people to do it for you. Yeah. But if you're not going to make anything, don't sit there and complain about what food is on the table. Like, you have the ingredients, go buck wild.
Yeah. Listen, not everybody is a writer, but everybody can learn to be a writer. And same, that goes with art too, you know? Yeah. Like, don't be afraid to start drawing something because you love it, you know?
Our final question. Would you like to read it, Teese?
Yeah, this is from my good pal Julia. Her @ is FreeJuco. And she says, was there ever a time you were embarrassed about your fandom interests, but now you embrace it? Would love to hear about your early con days. Those were 2 separate questions. I don't know how to read. Sorry, Jewel. So, Cass, do you want to go with one and then the other, or we could take turns going back and forth? What are you feeling?
I mean, I think I can sum it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that I definitely went through a period as a teenager where I became really embarrassed about everything I enjoyed, and a lot of that ties into like some mental illness and like personal stuff that I don't really want to get into.
Obviously.
Yeah, but I don't think there was ever a specific fandom. I just had like a really difficult time allowing myself to enjoy things, and it has been a persistent journey to just say, I'm not hurting anyone. This makes me happy. I'm allowed to enjoy it, you know? You are allowed to just sit and watch Kingdom Hearts clips and old AMVs and stuff and enjoy them. I'm allowed to look at my Garfield Tecmo phone and enjoy him. He makes me happy. I'm an adult. I can afford him. He is mine and my child. You do not have to outgrow the things that make you happy. Early con days, the first big con I ever went to was Otakon, and I miss her dearly. I don't really have a lot of fun con stories or anything. I kind of just get really hungry and dehydrated at cons and forget everything afterward and then get really sick.
Cass and Teese go to Otakon.
Cass and Teese go to Otakon 2022, hopefully.
22. It's crossed.
What about you, Teese?
What about Teese?
Teese actually emerged from an egg at the age of 19. Yeah. So they don't have any memories prior to that.
Julia actually knows the answer to this because Julia is the one who managed to figure out this answer with me. But I didn't start watching anime until the end of my freshman year of high school. And I was incredibly embarrassed about it. Oh. But if you said the code word to me, which was just anime, you had to bring it up to me before I would ever bring it up to you type deal. Mm-hmm. Like, if you were to say, oh, have you watched this? Like, just to me out of the blue, I'd be like, blah, 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 yeah, I have, blah, blah. But, like, I would not, hey, do you watch anime? Like, I just wouldn't. And in the time I was in high school, it was not cool to watch anime yet the way it is now. And, oh boy, you had to, dare I say, ask and then tell for me. And that's what it was up until about maybe my senior year of high school. I didn't start actively talking about anime out loud, though, to people that I did not know until college. And now I'm just like, what the fuck is up? My only trait is liking anime. And so there's that. But then early con stories, I mean, I started going to conventions that same year of high school. My freshman year of high school, a friend had an extra con ticket and was like, hey, you want to come to an anime convention? I know you like Studio Ghibli and Sailor Moon, and you don't watch any other anime. And I said, okay. And then from that moment, my well was poisoned. So there's moments like that. Also, one time I was in a card store my sophomore year of high school, and a guy tried to flirt with me by saying, what's a pretty girl like this doing in this store? Because it was like anime merch and like trading card shit. And I said, because I fucking like anime. And then I was so embarrassed that I actually crouched into a ball on the floor.
No.
And the guy was like, okay, and super embarrassed himself, and then walked away. And my friend had to witness me say all of that. And I think that was pretty embarrassing too. Oh. And sometimes I lay in bed and I think about that. And that's like one of in my dreams, I'm naked and nobody else's stories, except it happened in real life.
Well, I think that wraps us up. Thank you so much to everybody who sent in questions. It's very helpful, and it really saved us this week. So
maybe in another 22 episodes, we'll do another Q&A.
Yeah, episode 44.
Yeah.
If you want to reach out to us or, send us even more questions or tell me why you like least Final Fantasy XIV, I will delete that email, but you can reach out to us via email at authorsnotepod@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Twitter. We're at authorsnotepod over there. It is super helpful for us if you share the podcast with a friend or leave a review. My phone is on my cat's blanket and he's very upset about it. Let me move that for you, sir. Yeah, sharing the podcast helps us so much. And then if you enjoyed the episode, maybe if you have a few pennies laying around, consider donating to us via Ko-fi. There's a link to that in our card, which is on our Twitter. We are Authors Note Pod over on Ko-fi as well. And stay tuned for some fun, exciting things coming down the pipeline. Let me think real quick. If you want to check out more of my work, you can find me pretty much everywhere on social media at Valhethella. That's VALHETHELLA. Teese. If people want to find more of you, where can they find you at?
You could find me at Vicunad. That's VICUNAD. You could also find the person who made our theme music, who is James Wyulo, and you could find him at Bandcamp under James Y. Make sure you buy his stuff on Fridays. Bandcamp Friday gives more profits to the people who made the music. Do it. Yeah. Cass, who made our cover art.
Our cover art was made by the wonderful Nyaliest. You can find her on Twitter at Nyaliest. That's NYALLIEST. Until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, wear 2 masks, stay indoors if at all possible, and stay warm. But most importantly, stay safe. Bye.
Bye. Happy Valentine's Day.